they want us to do?
The public comments going to be right here at this stand.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we might just have to, well, it sucks that they don't accept plugins either. Well,
I think that guy was just an idiot. I think we could have just plugged in.
no, we can. But also the live stream.
I don't know what to do.
So, people's comments right there. And then we got people up there.
Well, that'll be like other people.
Other people.
Like presentations, I think, will be up there. We do just need to plug in because they have links.
Because, yeah, they're not going to get good audio. Especially if we're live streaming this. I guess our best bet would be put it right there.
Yeah, so I feel like it won't, you still won't be able to hear it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess this is what we're going to have to do, and hopefully the speakers will be loud enough.
Yeah.
I mean, we did all we could, so. I'll just put it on whatever, and then we'll just hope for the best. Do I still have the stabilizer?
Public comment, we go behind them, like, so we can see their faces. Like, go there.
That's what I was planning on doing, because then we can get a layout of everybody.
Yeah.
Well, I also want to get you some B-roll. I know we're live streaming this, but people haven't spoken yet, so.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank everyone for your patience this evening. We are in a non-traditional place where we typically meet, but if you are not aware of the board room ceiling collapsed, and so we figured you guys may want to be in a more comfortable space than looking at the hats. Well, this place, but not as far looking guys. So I'm going to call this regular meeting of the Board of Education to order and ask that the clerk please call the roll.
Dr. Kavanaugh, Mr. Green, Mr. Lopez, Mrs. Moore, Dr. Navarez-Martinez, Mr. Noveski, Dr. Rodriguez, Ms. Williams, Mrs. Willis.
Present.
Quorum is present.
Thank you, and I do know that Mr. Nowitzki is en route. He should be here very shortly. And Dr. Kavanaugh, Dr. Navarez-Martinez, and Ms. Moore did tell me in advance that they had a conflict and not be here this evening. But before we get started with our other additions to the agenda, I'm going to ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I had Mr. Nowitzki read the mission statement this evening, but since he's not here yet, I'm going to ask
provide high-quality education in a culturally safe and nurturing environment that supports all students to live purposefully and fulfilling lives.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is any additions to the agenda. To my colleagues, do we have any additions to the agenda? Seeing none, we do have a time on this evening's calendar for public comment on agenda item. I do not have any registered speakers on agenda items this evening, but I do want to note for speakers or any individuals in the audience who wish to address the board later in the evening on non-agenda items. It's important that you complete one of these blue cards that are in the back of the room and give them to our board secretary over here on the side so that you can be recognized during that portion of the agenda. That brings us on to our next item this evening, which is presentations and report from the superintendent. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Shulman.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's really lovely to see all of you. As Rachel said, we are in a very different kind of building because our roof has collapsed. Although I will say being in a school is actually really quite nice. Last year, you folks remember, we actually kind of toured the district, and if this goes well, I think we might continue to do it, because to be honest, I have no idea when the roof is going to be, or the ceiling is going to be set up. It's certainly been a while, the way that the calendar broke down. You know, we had July 4th, and we had the ISSs, which we don't have, so it's been a long time since we've met, so there's been some really kind of great stuff that's been going on. Of course, the graduation. For those of you who saw for the first time in a while, we had the graduation at Breslin, which I think went over really, really well. There's something pretty special about that. So it's certainly our hope that we'll continue to do that work. But at Breslin, which was really powerful, of course, with the graduation, and you know, the numbers that are verified are typically done in February, but the initial numbers that I can kind of share with the district is that it looks like we're really close to the 85% graduation rate that we've been really looking for, and our goal was to do it in the 2025-2026 year, so the fact that we might have done it 2 years earlier is really quite amazing. And I want to give a big shout out to all of the high school folks, and of course the K-8 folks, but the work that the high schools have done over these last 3 years has been really tremendous. Again, just to be clear, the initial numbers are what we're talking about. They don't become official until February once the state certifies them and does their accountability metric. You know, the other big goal that the district has been around attendance. Sadly, you know, for years the attendance has been pretty low. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, our attendance was at 70%. And again, to give a really nice report is that our end of year initial numbers are actually all the way up to 84%. So just to put that in perspective, in the last 3 years, we've been able to raise the graduation rate by 23%, and in the last 2 years, we've been able to raise the attendance rate by 14%, coming within less than a point of pre-COVID attendance, which is pretty rare for school districts. So, you know, I wanted to keep the kind of update brief. We haven't spoken for a while, but it's really kind of amazing to see what's been happening throughout the district over these last couple of years. But as I think everybody can see, we actually visited by lots of people today, which is terrific. I am used to sitting on the other side where I was on a school board myself, and typically our rooms would be filled with hundreds, if not thousands of people. In the 2 years I've been the superintendent, you know, our rooms are usually pretty empty, and so it actually is really quite wonderful to see so many people here today. I can only imagine that a lot of people want to hear about and want to speak about the libraries. There has been quite a bit in the press discussing the district's possible decisions around libraries, but I will say, if you've noticed or paid attention to any of the news or any of the articles, the district hasn't said anything. There's a reason for that, is that none of the stuff that you've been reading is probably true. And so we want to be really clear, certainly as a superintendent, is there's a reason why school districts don't respond to the press, and there's a reason why school districts don't engage in kind of back and forth things with folks, because we have to A, protect our employees, and B, we also have to make sure that if we're going to make a decision, we have to really decide on it in a kind of systematic way. But because so many people seem to care about this, and so many people have really reached out to us, what I'm going to ask the board president, if she will allow me to, is to kind of show you how the decisions get made here. This is my time as superintendent on the agenda, right? It says report from superintendent. So usually what I would do here is say, well, I'm a superintendent, this is what's happening, graduation rates, attendance rates, et cetera, but what we can do, and what I think might be really kind of powerful and might be really interesting, is to show the community kind of how decisions are made within the district, and to be really clear about what I'm going to ask, if it's okay that we do, is to actually have the people who have been advocating for the change about libraries to present to me as superintendent what they want to advocate for. This is a lot different than what you think or what people might think how this works. As a superintendent, I'm always asking our amazing staff, what do they think we should do to make the district better? And over the course of 3 years, we've done a lot of things. Universal pre-K, Lansing Tech, new programs left and right. All of those things come from conversations where staff will come to my office or I'll go to their office and really sit with them and say, okay, what are you advocating for? What do you want? And so what I'd like to do is to invite some of the members of the departments to come to the table and really kind of explain to me what it is that you are advocating for. And I want to be really clear here, the district, again, and this is what to see, the district hasn't made any formal decisions one way or another about anything. We don't really do that in the middle of the summer per se. We're trying to plan, we're trying to do stuff. But we know that there's this information out there that people are perceiving about what the district is going to do or wants to do or has already done. So, what if possible, I mean, Christina and Sergio and Sarah and Clayton and Sarah, why don't you guys come up to the front here and take your, I guess, chairs with you if we don't fit. And so then to preface this, yeah, it's okay, whatever works, is that what's about to happen is that the representatives of the Office of Schools, which of course is our pedagogical side, then we have the Office of Special Populations, we have Human Resources. We're lucky enough to be joined by one of our terrific principals, and Nicole, nice to see you. And then Sarah O'Neill is part of our Office of Schools as well. And then Christina is the COO, so she's representing kind of facilities and operations. So again, we rarely kind of respond to stuff in the press, and we really try to kind of keep things, closed to as we decide things. I don't think anybody really wants to see how the sausage is made, but because there's been so much, I think, misinformation and so much concern about what the district might be doing, it might be kind of interesting, or I think very, very helpful and elucidating opportunity is, rather than me give a kind of report per se, is to actually have the people that are leading this charge to report to me and have me kind of see this. What you'll also see during this is I'm going to probably ask them questions. I'm going to probably push back on them. I'm going to see what's going on. The request here from the board, of course, is this is during the report from the superintendent. Of course, the board can ask whatever they want at any, at any time, but I think it'd be really helpful to kind of hear from the employees of the district who represent the Office of Schools, the Office of Special Populations, HR, facilities, etc., to kind of see where any of this stuff is coming from. Because as superintendent, I don't make decisions in the vacuum, and I rarely make decisions that aren't going through or vetted by the staff. So I'll have probably some comments around this later, but I have to say that I have been really impressed by how our staff has taken this and how much they wanted to be able to kind of share their thoughts around their ideas that might or might not be kind of decided by the school district. So, I don't know if people can see the screens. Oh, awesome. So people in the audience, you can see that one, and I guess the board can see this one. Terrific. So, I'm going to turn it over to, I guess, Dr. O'Neill. Awesome. All right. Take it away, Dr. O'Neill.
Good evening, Mr. Shulman. Thank you for allowing me to share what I think we should do moving forward with our libraries. As Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, I also have the pleasure of leading the library department over the last few years. I'm an absolute lover of libraries. I have grown up in this community, and libraries are deeply important to me. I am passionate about books, period. I have served as a 7th and 8th grade social studies teacher in the back of the yards neighborhood on the south side of Chicago, where we didn't have access to a library at the middle level. I would take the bus downtown Chicago and fill as many of the tote bags as I could to make sure that the students had access to high-quality literature. I have also served as a Title I reading specialist where I took pride in engaging students in literacy learning by being clear about the why reading matters and how it can be life-changing for a child. I was lucky enough to serve as principal of Rio School, where student voice led me to prioritize the updating of our library to be bursting with books, full of representation and diversity of thought reflected in the content. I smile when I think of it now, because I was not yet a student of library. I had no idea the amount of additional work I created for those librarians. No matter, the community pulled together with librarians, and they made sure every book was stamped, labeled, shelving was moved, and students had what they needed. I would argue at that point that we had the coolest books in the district, extending us across the continuum of reading levels. I also led in partnership with West Ed a team through our 2021 Systemic Equity Review. We consisted of a team of 40 stakeholders representative of students, staff, parents, and community voice. The review made 4 specific recommendations to begin infusing equity into our libraries, with a librarian serving on the team. Recommendations included rewriting our fine policy, which the board took immediate action in abolishing all fines to increase access to books, to conduct a yearly review of library materials to ensure materials accurately reflect the diversity in our community, to allocate necessary resources to add or replace our library collections, and to review funding policies to ensure equity. All 4 recommendations have been addressed and are continually monitored with interim targets. I say all this to say that historically we have invested deeply in our libraries and yet continue to see our literacy scores decline. We finally have the time and the resources to review this question. What tools and resources are essential for our students? How can we modernize to continue supporting libraries while increasing scores to ensure that our students become global and critical thinkers? Next, to show you the current state of our libraries, I will pass off the next slide to Christina Tokar, our COO.
Thank you, Dr. O'Neill. I would like to share that all of our schools have a library. Yes, every school has an open and active library in our district. I know there have been things published in the media stating that we are closing school libraries, and this is simply not true. And if any school would like to close down spaces within their school or add new spaces, this is something that is brought to my attention for discussion and decision among the leadership of our district. I would like to share with you the current state of all of our libraries. Our where I can do more what you're going to see in some of these pictures. There are spaces with items moved to the side or potentially boxed up. That's because we care deeply about our libraries and we spend the summer cleaning them thoroughly, and that is currently a process that is going on. Additional boxes that you might see in several of these libraries are the thousands of new books that are being delivered to each and every one of them. The next picture shows K-8 Elementary, and you can see a library of different books.
And, I mean, just again, for everybody who's watching this at home, if this was really a meeting like this, which it kind of is, with sharing with me, I would say, are you lying to me when you take these pictures, right? So, when did you take these pictures?
These pictures were taken 2 and 3 days ago by our communications department.
Fair
So
enough.
this is very current.
Okay.
Next is Forest Field. Battery Park. Lions Elementary, with a bunch of lovely art as well included. Willow at Willow. We're doing some extensive cleaning there, so you can see some of that's a little bit messy. Atwood. Dwight Rich. This school this week and next week is being deeply cleaned, so this is one of the schools I was talking about, and has everything pushed to the side. The boxes you see on the side are brand new books that have been delivered to the library. And then as you know, having thousands of books delivered to the Dwight Rich room.
So these are new books that are coming to school right now?
Correct. Gardner, representing all of our lovely communities. Luton Elementary, and this one I want to be specific to mention that I know there's been some things circulating in the community, that Luton's library was boxed up, that we were removing all of the resources. This picture was literally taken 2 days ago. As you can see, none of that is true.
And there's no plan to,
There is no plan to remove the resources or box up the library, no.
fair enough.
Mount Hope at the current Wood Creek location, just want to make sure I point that one out because as you know, we're looking into Mount Hope and I will get to that later. North Elementary. Patent. So this is one that's a little bit of an exception. We're not removing any of the resources, but as you know, we're adding a new 14 classroom pods to the school. And so what we're going to do is use this space as flexible classroom space, and so that pod is finished being built. So we're going to take these boxes, we're going to move them into mobile library parts, and move it into a different space within the school.
And this is done until we build the 14 classroom section?
Correct, and then we open this traditional library space for all.
And when do we think the census will be done?
It's going to be somewhere around like fall, late fall.
Okay, and then it will go back.
And then it will go back into it. This is post up. Sheridan Road. And here you're going to see we have multiple digital resources as well with the different parts. Wexford. Now I'm going to move on to our high school libraries, and what you're going to see is we really spend a lot of money investing in our high school libraries, a lot of our new builds. So these spaces have started to turn into more of a modern library spaces, and we've got different seating arrangements and those types of things. Everett is a school that we invested in heavily last year in their library last summer. So you'll see the different new soft seating arrangements and the collaborative learning spaces to get into that more modern library experience. And then this is Sexton. Yeah, of course. With that, I'd just like to turn it back over to Dr. Arnell so she can talk about our future vision of literacy and awareness in the district.
I have a question. Can you go back to the little picture for me? Is that a temporary classroom or is that the actual size of the library?
You're only seeing part of the library, so a lot of these pictures, even if you were picturing this is not the entire size of the library. It's the libraries are large, they're the size of a classroom or larger. In most locations, larger.
And this is the original library that Riddle had.
Correct. Well, this was actually moved into one of the larger kindergarten rooms. So when we built on the extension at Riddle, we added 2 rooms. This is back in the previous fund. So then with the reconfiguration, this space is actually one of the larger spaces, larger than a traditional classroom.
Good.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk a little bit about the vision of literacy that we have. Our vision in the instructional division and across departments is that our Lansing School District will provide academically rigorous and culturally relevant literacy instruction that prepares all students to be analytical leaders, skillful writers, and effective communicators for success in college, career, and life. In order to achieve this, students need to have access to up-to-date resources, diverse and inclusive text, materials at their reading level, a print-rich environment, opportunities to dialogue and write about their text with each other, and access to lots and lots of books. We need to ensure that the library is not the only place where books are found. We've invested heavily in our school libraries, and we are branching out to also provide books for daily use in a child's classroom, and I'll talk about that more later. We are also ensuring that students have access to these spaces year-round. So as an instructional division, Mr. Schulner, we believe in 21st century literacy, inclusive of digital literacy. If students are going to grow in literacy, they have to be surrounded by a balance of high-quality literature and nonfiction at all times throughout the day. I, along with the Deputy Superintendent of Schools, our 3 directors of instruction, and principals, all believe that children need to see books surrounding them as part of the fabric of everyday educational space that they have. Mr. Schulner, it was shocking to read in the paper about this investment. We have spent more money and have more books than we have had in decades. Our current collections are stunning, and we ensure that they are by using the library software Title 8, which provides a diversity, equity, and inclusion report to make sure our collections are diverse. We can pull a report for you right now for any school and show you a breakdown of percentage representative of every subgroup of students that we serve, and we make sure this happens.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you saying that. I mean, I've been around long enough. I'm not shocked with anything that's put in the press, but, you know, I'm glad that you're saying that. I certainly know that we've been spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on library equipment and library books, and, you know, I know you work really hard, so I don't want you to feel bad about what might or might not be portrayed in the press. This is why you get to always meet with me, so I don't want you to feel too bad about that. But what I'm hearing here is that there's now kind of a move towards not the libraries in the schools as kind of singular places, but really trying to make sure that the whole building is print rich, and you've invested quite a lot of that work as well.
Correct, on multiple fronts.
Good. Thanks.
Mr. Superintendent, 3 decades in administration, and 3 children of my own attended our schools. Today, we have books more representative of our community, and also have bilingual books for a large population of multilingual learners, which is about 17% of the student body. Never do I remember one of a child reading a Spanish book when they were in school. In addition, we have 34 preschool classrooms, which is one of the largest programs in the state. Each classroom has a library with selections that represent the population being served. These 4-year-olds have access to text and visuals at a very young age, which is an early literacy foundational strategy. In addition, the program shares bilingual books with students to take home, so parents who are not English proficient can also support their own children with those literacy skills.
I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, and again, this is not, you know, this is how this would normally go, and I'm hearing something that you're saying that I didn't know, and I would actually ask them. So we have a program that sends bilingual books to homes, to families. That's awesome. What is it?
We have a program in the preschools where the kids, when we identify what they need to speak at home, they have a little bag, there's a bilingual book, also in English and that language, and they take it for a week. You know?
That's great to know. So anybody in the audience, if you know about that, we'll get your books. That's really actually quite terrific. Thank you, sir.
Dr. O'Neill, do you want to explain further?
Yeah, I think it's important to note that in addition to the purchase of new books, that last summer we School by school, we moved as a team, leading our collections meticulously so that all criteria can be met in the selection of new reading materials to support diversity, using student voice as the driver.
And so that was a lot of the work that was kind of started with the equity team,
Yes.
because I know that was one of the things. Okay. Did you have equity team members do that, or was it you?
No, this was a collaboration of librarians and librarians who reached out in the general ed community to see what was work.
That's great.
All of the decisions we're trying to make is based on a vision of the district. So we are asking the district to think differently based on this vision.
With that being said, then, that's what I call it. I want to have a discussion about what modern libraries are, and I'm sure you might know what those are, but I want to kind of go around what the definition is that's circulated in the education community. In the landscape of modern education, school libraries are undergoing a revolutionary transformation. Evolving from their traditional roles as book-centric storehouses, they are now hybrid, multifunctional hubs that nurture collaboration, creativity, and digital fluency. This shift mirrors the broader move toward a student-centered learning model, where engagement and learning outcomes are significantly enhanced through interactive, technologically enriched environments. These are four examples of new modern libraries, and this is what we are looking forward to enacting within our schools.
Are those on the lower right? Are those movable?
They are non-casters, so that's something that's really, really unique, and something we're actually looking at some more for Combo and Willow as well. So with the casters, you can create different learning spaces, different collaborative spaces. Those different types of storage units can make all of those different spaces depending on what you need to use the system for. So we care, I just want to reiterate that we care deeply about our libraries, and we want you to understand that there's a different way of thinking about them. The new and best models around the country focus on digital fluency, media centers, 21st century digital learning, are comfortable and warm spaces for everyone. Our libraries must change from cloistered, quiet, to a modern, warm, collaborative learning environment.
I will now share with you 3 slides with specifics around how we have invested in our libraries over the last 3 years. I want to be clear that it was really hurtful to see people saying that in 3 years I've been leading, we've been disinvesting our libraries, when in fact we have invested hundreds of thousands of dollars. The start grant allocated $2,000 for 8 elementary and academy libraries serving grades 4 through 8 in order to provide books with a focus on social justice, social emotional learning, financial literacy, and the LGBTQIA+ for students. The READ grant allocated $2,500 for Willow's Library to focus on updating the nonfiction for career supports. We realized after reading that library that the average copyright date was just into the 90s. Most recently, the READ grant allocated $25,500 to be split for K-8 libraries to support the same topics mentioned above. And we were awarded $50,000 for writing the Laura Bush grant. 10 schools got $5,000 each. We used the Title 8 Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion report that I mentioned to analyze each of our collections and build 8 libraries with books reflective of our population. I would like to now defer to my colleague Kim Adams, our Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Budget, to share with you about an increasing in funding from the school level to support libraries.
You all want to come up with a table.
There we go. Thank you, Dr. Logan. What I'd like to say is during the spring, we met with all of our schools. We budgeted through school-based funding on how they would like their budget set up for fiscal year 25 this year. Our schools in their cities chose to invest more this current year than last year. They increased the budget by 26%. In addition to the data that Sarah has presented, we had over $300,000 from the READ grant that was invested in school packages of kids to home books to remain at home for them and their parents to use. $300,000.
So we've invested more in libraries than we ever have. Thank you.
Now, I would not normally do this with the staff, because no school is legislating, but just as a reminder to the community, one of the things that we're really trying to push is spend less money in the central office and spend more money in the schools. And what that means is that principals themselves, and I see some in the audience, and there's one here, they have more control over how they want to spend their money. And I didn't notice, Kim saying, is that on average, the principals, when given the opportunity to control their budgets, shocking, they chose to increase the number of dollars that they were spending on things like books and literacy. That's great. That's why we do this. We're trying to move very, very far away from this idea that me, some, dude in a tie, is going to decide how every school spends their money. What we're trying to say is, how many kids you got? This is how much money you get. Because that's how we're allocated. Now we're spending the money you want. And that's really nice to hear that by giving them that authority, the principals have actually increased the money for libraries and books and things like that. All right, that's great. Take it away.
No problem. So the first slide was the library investment in our traditional libraries. I would like to now move to how we're investing in classroom libraries. So we received a grant, which will provide a diverse classroom library with 400 books to every kindergarten and first aid classroom for the schools that are in partnership. And that will be implemented when kids are ready to come back this fall. They've been ordered. The REAP grant is picking up the other non-partnership schools so that there is no empty. This increased the classrooms receiving books from 47 classrooms to now 75 classrooms that receive these classroom libraries. These grants provide access to diverse classroom library for all students all day. The instructional coaches will work with teachers on how to utilize these libraries for instruction, read alouds, and time and text for students using high-interest books. Research for the books that we chose is based on Dr. Gordon Muhammad's work, who wrote Cultivating Genius and Equity Bringer, Culturally and Historically Responsive Literacy. This is a text that a lot of our staff is familiar with, has read, has been used in professional development, and we've had much success. Creating a print-rich environment throughout the district is our goal, not just the library. Great, just a few more investments. So some more general investments are bookshelves. So we knew when we received the RAD grant in these beautiful classroom libraries that space is going to be an issue. So we allocated $243,300 for bookshelves to support classroom libraries. And a lot of those bookshelves are not stationary, they're flexible and movable spaces, which is very exciting. On average, we spend...
Sorry, so this would allow us to do kind of like that picture where we have flexible spaces and move books around.
Correct, absolutely. Or project-based learning, or holding based on theme, all of that. $70,000 per year for book replacements and adding to library collections is what we're averaging now. And then an ongoing REAP grant investment. So $276,386 has been spent on libraries, including books and necessary supplies. The REAP grant should all provide classrooms with thriving classroom libraries. And the most exciting that I'm most proud of our board is $92,300 in forgiven fines due to the board's decision to increase equitable access for all. So, Mr. Schulman, I leave you with this thought. All of this collection development and collaboration between departments to revamp our libraries has been done since you've been here under your tenure and taken over. I hope this gives us enough standing for you to listen to us in designing a new K-8 model. That's why we are presenting to you the best way forward.
All right, well, I appreciate that. But it is kind of amazing that, from my standpoint, when I look at the $220 million that we kind of spend every year, it really is quite incredible how much money really in the last 3 years. And you have to forget what credit to Sarah. You've been in charge of a lot of our stuff for the last 3 years. You've really spent a lot of money on books and in the libraries. And, if we are to believe you, Christina, that every school has a library and we haven't messed it up, it does seem like we really invested quite a bit in this. And then $92,000 for it, we did that, so just know that.
3 at the high school and 4 to cover the 8th grades. Going into next year, we don't plan to change anything in high school, or no changes to staff. What we are proposing some changes are in grades. This plans to include 2 certified librarians, and these positions will work with 8 schools across all of the schools. Book selection, curation, maintenance of that collection, but also provide some professional staff. We've posted 34 new instructional assistants across our K-8 schools to support student literacy and library usage, and we're currently hiring folks there. When it comes to the number of certified library staff, the reduction for next year is 2 certified librarians. I think it's important to note a couple things. All of these folks who served as librarian roles last year are still with us and continue to be employed as educators and stuff in the year. There are no firings, no layoffs, they're with us, they're our employees,
Sorry, I just want to make sure I'm understanding this. So the presentation, what you guys are asking for is we had 7 certified librarians in the schools this year, and this is to go to 5. So it would be a reduction of 2 certified librarians. But all the high school folks say, and then you're going from 4 certified folks K-8 to 2, but you're asking for 34, not 3 or 4. Okay. Do we have a range? Okay. 34 instructional assistants in every K-8 school to support literacy instruction and library usage. And I assume Sarah, you want to explain how this is going. Great. Keep on going. Sorry.
Well, to talk about the 34 instructional assistants, they're 8-hour positions.
Okay.
There's 34, there's 2 for each school. That 8 hours, you're not seeing that's a change, but it is. It's an hour difference between a typical 7-hour position, and it extends beyond the school day, which allows us the potential opportunity to staff use those to libraries and that stuff.
So the idea here is that they would be kind of instructional assistants in the school doing normal instructional assistant stuff. Because you're making them 8 hours, it would allow the libraries to kind of be open before school and after school. And again, I mean, no joke, folks. This is the question I would ask, and I am asking this, is my experience in some school districts is not having necessarily an assistant in rooms alone with kids, but we're allowed to do that, right? So if we're opening up the library, let's say, kids can be there and stuff like that. Okay. So the idea here is every school, all of our K-8s, and the high school director could get the library over there. What you're saying is this would allow the K-8 schools to have an adult and an employee in the schools before school and after school, so kids could use the library. All right. As well, not just you're helping kids throughout the day, you're not going to just sit on their hands, but this is the novel thing that I guess this is why you want to present this. Okay. I get it. Thanks.
I think on the next slide, Dr. will explain what this means for kids in the context of schools and the program.
Absolutely. So here in the HR director, we're going to advocate for a new model that will help all children. This past year, students had access to library for only 1 semester, and they went to the library 1 to 2 times per week. The other semester, our libraries remained dark. This means that our K-8 students across the district have very little access to the library in the current model. The current model does not work for our students. In addition to not having
I'm sorry. I mean, you know, I visit school every day, and I'm in classrooms all the time, but I just want to make sure I'm understanding this. That the old model and the current model is that kids had libraries through 1 semester a year, but even then, you only got to go to the library like once a week.
unless otherwise determined to comply.
Got it. Okay. It doesn't seem like. Okay. Anyway, I'll keep my responses for later. So the idea is the old model or the current model is one library per semester, and then when the library is not there during that semester, the library just kind of closed.
Yes, to the argument of the protective collection, but it's blocked.
Protective collection, the concealed vegetables. My response was, if they want a carrot, they have a carrot. So I'm concerned if the pedagogy of the district was about protecting the things and not our children. I would much rather us think about how our kids can have more access to things, which I assume is where you're going to go. But that is, I'm glad you brought that up, Claire. Thank you for elucidating that. Okay, so what do you advocate for?
So in addition, I'm not gonna-
Oh, you're not.
in addition to not having a lot of time, what we were doing the library instruction wasn't working. We know this because all of the investment is only left to lower proficiency rates. What I've seen in the libraries is that some teachers do not have a fully developed curriculum as they only see the students once a week, and they don't have the chance to build strong relationships. It's not because they don't want to. They don't have the time. This affects the classroom management and the learning environment across multiple weeks, which helps out. The libraries as we have them now are only open once, twice a week, and it doesn't work for building strong literacy skills.
So, I mean, you know, you have a doctorate, I don't, you're much better at finishing the class up than I am, but, you know, we want to make sure we're not doing a kind of correlation versus causation. What we're not hearing is, hey, look, we haven't had good nurseries for a long time. Maybe this isn't the right way of doing it. That's all right. Not that we can prove that whatever we're doing, but it's a fair point. It's a fair point. So we've been doing all this investment. Our literacy rates haven't really moved. You're going to say, hey, maybe do something like that.
Right. So we are asking you to help us be creative in expanding access to books. By keeping 2 certified librarians to oversee the K-8 collection, they will also be able to provide thorough professional development to the 34 instructional assistants we are asking for. In this new model, students would access the library before and after school or during lunch. Our collections will remain protected under our certified positions. Additionally, it opens up opportunity to invite our parents and community in to help us with check-in, check-out, and shelving once they've obviously been trained under our librarians. Our K-8 model, Mr. Schulman, has changed. The system we are proposing will best help our students increase time on text and achieve mastery of all things literacy so that they can move on to become competitive in multiple contexts.
So, you know, I assume this is going to cost more, but it is what it is. Okay. You can tell the look that my assistant superintendent budget gave me is, yes, this is going to cost a lot more, but I get it. So, really the argument here is we have 3 high school principals, 3 high school librarians. You're going to say they do this stuff in high schools. We had 4 certified librarians in K-8. You're going to go to 2. The 2 are going to be kind of more district-wide, making sure the collections are okay, and organized or whatever, but that this dark time, this closed time, is going to kind of cease to exist because you want to open it up and make the library much more accessible to more kids, before school, after school, during school, et cetera, et cetera. And then the hope, and I want to make sure I heard this correctly, is that the 2 K-8 district-wide librarians are really doing professional development to help work with those assistants. Are they also going to do PD for teachers too?
Absolutely. We seek to do that. And we really seek to have a system that is sustainable and that we may have to change in iterations, but that will be long-standing.
Okay.
Mr. Superintendent, in addition, the flexibility of having more access to our libraries will benefit a large number of students participating in special education, English language development, and rural programs. In these programs, students receive specialized and targeted instruction, which frequently causes them to miss their scheduled library time. By having more flexible access, teachers can assess their students in selecting resources that align the levels of literacy, subjects, and current content taught in the classroom.
So you usually you wear a tie. Surgery is more formal than I am. So, you're telling me that typically our ML kids and special ed kids and kids in the extra support, a lot of times they're pulled out during things like library time. Okay, and this will help us.
Yeah. Okay. And teachers spend 80 to 90% of the day with their students. And no one is better fit to assess students
future principal of my hope, who really, I want the community to know just how terrific the both been. In just 1 year of living in school, we've seen a pretty great turnaround. So I do remember this slightly, because I remember being there when the kids were asking for like a pool and horses. But the way that we derived this was we talked to kids, we talked to parents, we talked to staff, and because they knew it was going to be a fun-to-make school, they really said, look, we want a 5th grade section, and then the rest is kind of more traditional because the kids, the 6th graders, 7th graders, 8th graders, move classrooms around. They wanted a kind of more traditional library, at least in terms of having a big room called library. But I do also remember the big ask was to have a separate gym from the cafeteria. Right. So I don't know, which is great to see. If there's anything you want to add about, your conversations with families or the teachers, if they're happy with this, how this came about, whatever you want, just nice to see it. So.
Thank you. Nice to see you again. Good evening, everyone. So our students are really, this is what they wanted. We're looking forward to our new building. We are really excited when I think of 21st Century Library Media Center. So I'm closing my eyes, literally picturing an environment where our students are walking in, are able to read and find countless resources. Now I'm going to realize them. So countless resources where there's collaboration with teachers, where there's exploration, students are reading books, where they have projects, they can get online and do some research. They can work at grade level, and this way our literacy program, program is more robust, where students are actually, there is equity, because our students deserve that. So we are really looking forward to 21st century library center for our students.
I'm glad to hear it's something I know. I remember them really wanting to go in. That was a really big thing. And then those little pop-out things, I know that it's something we thought they were somehow like open cells for children, but they are in fact nuts for kids. They're really nuts. Good. But we still, of course, have the big library that they want. Okay. All right. Sounds good. So this is a new memo, and I know this. I don't need to kind of be facetious here. Remind everybody, when should this open? When will we get the new memo?
There's no should. It's happening.
Okay. When is the new memo open?
The new memo is happening after next school year, so the fall of 2020.
Okay. So we welcome the community. I don't think we're going to do much when it's still under construction, but I promise that when it's ready for people, we would love to show it. This is the first new build.
2 of the houses have libraries in them, and those libraries are the size of the classroom. So when entering the pod and coming in, there are libraries. I'll go ahead and flip forward so you can kind of see those in the pink. And then along with that, in our K-2 pod, we have those more individualized classroom library collections with those soft learning spaces, still those modern environments that we're going to build in right into the classroom, opposed to having the central library.
And this was really done, and I remember these conversations, was when I got here, the community really wanted to take the 7th and 8th graders out of the high schools. We created these 7 and 8s, but there was a concern about having the younger kids and older kids kind of all walking together, going to the same place, etc. So the model of 3 separate houses for the K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, but the 2 older buildings, older kid buildings, they get their own library. It's not one central one, it's one for each of the houses.
Correct. Yep, and those are in the pink. And then the K-2 are the smaller green areas, but those in relation are a little bit larger and they have like little carts again, the soft spaces and little recording.
And the big thing that I remember speaking to the faculty was they really wanted to make sure that that campus was covered.
Absolutely.
And we are going to cover.
Correct.
Oh.
It's being covered. Yes.
Yeah.
And then additional with the pods too is creating kind of a sense of community within those smaller learning communities. So with the Willow, we wanted to honor the tree of the Willow tree. And so each pod kind of has its own identity, its own color, from going from like seedlings and the younger pods and then shallow tree growing, so they can be around the school, but they also have their own external learning environments too for each house. So that's one of the other things that we make sure kind of really they can all come together as an entire school in those larger spaces, but can also stay within their smaller.
So really the families, kids, parents, teachers, the idea was to give them kind of a separate space, their own outdoor space, their own indoor space, and they get their own bathroom, their own library, etc.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. But they still have like art music.
Art music. Yep, that's okay. Yep, so the gymnasium, the art room, the music room is right off of the cafeteria. So what we did for that is the cafeteria is going to be our performance space. You can kind of have back of house in the music area, go right into the cafeteria for performance. Got STEM labs, we've got fabric spaces, special education spaces, sensory rooms, lots of great things, and as well with the soft seating in the library areas in your classroom, also with sensory areas as well. As you know, this is going to be our 3rd build, so we haven't developed anything fully yet. So Willow is under construction, as you all know. We took down Willow, we're currently working to build Willow. Even just 2 days ago, we had our second parent meeting with our families to go over what they'd like to see in the community. We originally, since Luton is a pre-K-8, we kind of took the Willow model and presented it to them and said, hey, this is what the Willow community, this is what it looks like. Here's the different learning environments, the pods, and what we've been hearing back from the Luton families is they want one central library. That means something to them very much. They want one central library, and they really want to keep the learning environments in close. So it's not really coming across that they want the same thing as Willow, which is completely fine. Every community wants something a little bit different. So I think we're going to need to continue to work with them and shift back more to a traditional school layout. Because that's something that the families want.
But if we create the one singular library for Luke, which is fine, that's what families want, it would still be more of the modern, like, media center, et cetera, et cetera. So we just need the one for all K-8.
Absolutely.
And so if the families want it, so the idea is that the kindergarten kid and the 8th grade kid are all in the same space, they want just a more traditional model. And this came from what?
The parent meeting we had 2 days ago, we're having another one next week, but we had quite a bit of turnout and that was quite exciting.
And it was really pretty clear. Like,
it was very clear.
Okay. So then it sounds like with Luton, you're going to kind of go back to the drawing board, or just a more traditional build.
Correct.
One library, and then kind of more closed space.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So we'll continue to work with the families over the next couple of months.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good.
So I'm going to hand it back over to Susan and kind of wrap it up.
Great.
Mr. Superintendent, we are in the 21st century. Our kids come first. We will have more access to books and libraries by keeping them open. We want to make sure that we share this
board, it took an hour, and I know we have lots of other things to do, and I'm sure there's lots of comments and things like that that we'll get to when it's time. But what I'm hearing, just so that I can wrap this up, is all of the libraries are still libraries. We haven't closed down a single library. The only library is the back end, and that's just we're building a new thing and whatever. And whatever the rumor about Luton's library is false. Great. Good to know. I will say, I don't go into the buildings during the summer as often, so I'm glad we took pictures. What I'm hearing is that currently we have 7 certified librarians, 3 at the high school, 4 in the middle school, or K-8s. You're advocating to go from, keep the 3, we go from 4 to 2, but really make them more district-wide. But, I mean, just so I understand, you have 4 certified librarians in the whole district for K-8. Percentage-wise, that's pretty low for the number of schools. So you're really talking about going from 4 to 2, so that the 2 of them, whoever they are, can really help make and create the books and the whole, you know, kind of the whole way of making sure you can order writing and organize it, etc. But that you want 34 assistants to really get trained so that these libraries can stay open all the time. What I'm also hearing is my hope, you want a more traditional, you're getting more traditional, but a lot of it is because you're a 5-8 school, and those kids kind of move around a lot, and there's no reason, there's no house for them to live in, it's all in one thing. The Rillo community kind of like that thing, but as of 2 days ago, the Luton families are pretty clear what they want. Fine, you know, parents and kids and teachers have a pretty good voice. So I will take this under advisement. Again, I want to be very clear to everybody in the audience and whoever's listening at home, whatever news stations are still here. I will take it under advisement. I mean, if we haven't made any decisions, we will try to make decisions pretty quickly. Certainly, the board can ask whatever questions they want. But this is how it would go. We would probably not call Mr. Goldner, but this is what they would do, and they're doing it. And we wanted the community to see this because the last thing we want is for there to be any sort of misconception about what we're doing. In the last few years, this district has changed immeasurably for good. But I will say, and you know, a little bit of privilege here is like, as someone who's not from here, it's kind of sad that like I see a lot of just overt negativity around the district. I feel like there's the Ginger Rogers effect, right? She'll do everything first there, did the backwards and the heels. And so I just want to make sure that what I'm hearing is we haven't closed any libraries down. We're contemplating a really thoughtful and new way of thinking about books and literacy to access to kids, more times in libraries, more times this, you know, so that we worked your tail off for 3 years about this. That's what you're asking for. Okay. I'm not going to promise anything, but I will certainly take it under advisement, and certainly I will defer to my bosses here. But I think this is really powerful, and I really hope that that you feel good, because I know all of you and many of the other staff members have felt kind of put upon over the last couple of weeks. All of your really hard work being kind of changed in a way that nobody really thought was real. So thank you. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Before you all start, just a moment. I know this isn't typically on the staff, so the superintendent started out as he led into his presentation. There's no gas cards or anything. We wouldn't typically have this conversation, but we want to actually bring a formal recommendation to the board to consider. We did this as the superintendent said, you know, there's a lot of information out there, but additionally, it's important that we have an increasingly transparent process effectively whenever we make major decisions. It was incredibly maddening to hear since the last board meeting, either in the media or on social media, that because there had been a conversation with 7 members of our staff about who would replace them, that was interpreted to mean that the district was intentionally disinvesting in libraries and literacy in our school district. The purpose of this presentation was an opportunity to show that nothing was further from the truth, and that is not in any shape or form the intent or recommendation that's even under consideration from this district. I had written a couple of questions that I was hoping to have answered during this presentation, and a lot of them were one of those questions was, how much have we invested in libraries over the last couple of years? You guys covered that in the presentation. I was going to ask, you know, Mr. O'Reilly started out by saying, we have libraries in all of our buildings, and it's going to be not just our old buildings, but our new buildings as well. We just get on that. I wanted us to talk about what's our current access to libraries with librarians and what does that look like. You guys absolutely have that. I also understand that librarians have, there's a reason why we use the word certified librarians as opposed to just district staff, right? Like there's ways for us to access libraries for the kids to be taught how to use a computer, log onto computers, and get access to how to understand literacy in the classroom. But having actual library access is unique, right? That's a process and much of books. I mean, kids these days don't have to pull out an encyclopedia to look things up now, but it's still a process, right? So we talked about maintaining 5 certified librarians in the role of librarian within the district and having 34 instructional assistants. Are we going to do anything special with those 34 instructional assistants to make them more unique than maybe a lunchtime food instructional assistant or something like that to kind of make it like that? I know we talked about the 2 librarians that are going to be K-8 librarians to do PD. But are we doing anything unique with that job posting or anything to recruit?
So, I just want to talk about one after hour. So,
Sure.
Right, that makes me unique. And actually, I hope this is people who decide to national accept roles and say that that's a better fit for me. Take that. The focus is on literacy kids and knowledge. So, practicing and also not being perspective being instructional systems. And, you know, when you're thinking about hiring more staff, you look at who we already have for these roles, and also bringing people that are literacy folks. We don't want these, we have to stress on the hiring process and posting and including that this is about literacy, this isn't literacy. I think that a lot of times instructional systems don't get, you don't get the short end of the stick in terms of their value in school and emphasize their value.
Thank you. That was exactly what I was looking for. Final question, because it's on the slide now, I'm more information about it. So one of the slides talked about the new models and said that the new model of what occurs is complete access and that is a PE building semester. Can you just tell us how does that work out?
Absolutely. So with this new model, our partners in PE not only have been able to increase FTE, but they will see the children every day. So our relationships will be deeper, we'll be able to go much deeper into the content, and that will benefit.
So the new model not only will help have access to literacy, but it also allows us to reallocate our resources so that we can use that as well.
Yes.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from Alex and Service?
Thank you. I think I have a couple of questions. The first one, is there any study out there that looks at our students benefit digital books versus a book? And how is there any data that is in kind of comparison in terms of learning and keeping what they learn? Either way?
Yes. So, as a team, we're always reviewing latest research. I would have to look into the specifics of digital versus print, and I'd be happy to get that information to duties of the two certified librarians that will be providing professional development is to train our instructional assistants in that, as well as general ed teachers to help with their skill set to be able to use that in the classroom.
One thing, very much, there is in, it's early with the digital office, so there is some research that's showing that, especially for younger kids, that tactile sense of like touching books and being with books is sometimes better. Being surrounded by print is good, but you're right, the modern world is digital. We have to make sure that we're doing both, getting kids to love books and love learning, but also having the skills to use the 21st century things. And I think what we've been doing is really trying to infuse as much technology in our libraries as we can, but also still have the kind of paper books. One big study that's been for years is, the number of books in a house, the number of words that are being around, that's really powerful. So the more that we can surround our kids with those books and with it will hopefully be a better thing.
And finally, with the books, obviously, you have written it. I wonder how new technology works to protect the number of this new AI. And how does that, what impact does that have in the technology area?
That's a really good question, sir.
It's coming. I think that we need to look at that. But the last question I have is, how much capacity do our older schools have for digital instruction or libraries? Because I know
to work with those children who have needs that actually that librarian is not for. Always. We always want to be inclusive with our assistants. Okay, my next question is there some type of way that I know that we get to the 21st century, we have to. There's no doubt about that. But the traditional setting of a library should still remain. Is there somewhere we can merge the traditional with what we're trying to do modern while maintaining the integrity of what a library should be?
Yeah, so the plan is to not get rid of any of the library spaces itself. It's just to continue to bring it into the modernness. So when I think of a traditional library, which some of our schools still have, while we're working to move it to modern, tables, wood chairs, Bible shelves. Our students like to find comfort and refuge in soft spaces. My child included in this very building seeks refuge in the library. So while we're talking about going modern, it's creating some of those additional spaces that Dr. Randall just talked about, where they can do lots of different things in the library. It can still be a quiet space for some, soft seating, somewhere to find something that helps them with sensory, but also at the same time to have gathering environment, writing projects, those sorts of things. So it's not meant to take away library. It's going to change from the library we know it as we're growing up, but that's where our students are headed. But it's meant to still create that space and keep that space available for them.
And let me expound on that. When I say the integrity of the library, being able to understand how to do research, from start to finish, using the Dewey Decimal System, going to the card catalog, because again, everything is digital now, and with everything being digital, we can cheat, let's just be real, we can cheat, we can plagiarize. I think that's what's affecting our children, their learning, their literacy, and why our children are not growing up. Because we're becoming more innovative and we're changing instead of teaching paper, pencil, when we go to the computer. Does that make sense?
I do agree. And our high school libraries, I think if you review the standards that they're teaching are very inclusive of all things like you're talking about. So there are lessons on how to navigate the library, how to research, how to use databases, how to evaluate, be critical of the information that we can get. Because just because it's labeled nonfiction does not mean it's true. All be critical thinkers, all of that's covered.
Mr. Nowitzki?
Expand on the note that was on the staffing side of it. It said that we have more librarians than other districts in the county. And so I'm curious if you could speak to what that means.
I can, if that's okay. One of the fascinating things about this whole conversation that's happening over the last month is just to put things in perspective. Waverly, the Waverly School District has 0 certified librarians. East Lansing, I think, has 1 certified librarian. It's interesting that the press and the social media want to talk about, what we're doing. I always wonder where everybody else is all of this, but I would say that even with this new model going to 5 certified librarians, not only do we have the highest number of librarians, you would actually still have the highest per capita as well. I want to give mad props to Mason. Mason has 3, and they only have
you. Thank you all very much. Sure, Dr. Davis.
Thank you, President. I want to tell everybody how much I enjoy this hour and a half. Because if we want to know about knowledge, we have to go to the libraries. I'm thinking about the Alexandria. I'm thinking about the Congress. The place, the city without a library is a very full city. I'm so glad we are having buildings in the libraries. I am concerned about the other issues around the libraries. I agree with Mr. Lopez about new technology, the AI, the new role of the libraries. We are not eliminating, we are transforming. And I will ask, Madam President, with permission, that you take us to the board of education in writing the plan for the libraries, containing not only the buildings, the people from moving their library knowledge to other schools. I want to see the plan, I want the plan in writing, I want the plan to be approved by the board.
As soon as he approves this plan, yes.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk?
Yeah, just had a couple of questions. So I know you mentioned K-8 opening after the school, extra hour. Is it half hour before, half hour after? How's that going to work?
So that's the thing, right? With school is budgeting decisions at the school level, you decide if you need to be in the day, schools in the end, and it's after school. I think that's going to really depend on maybe it's open, maybe it's half hour before, it's half hour after. It's the option there, the basic access. And we're not in a position to decide every school can do that.
Yeah, I mean, we're only saying that is not only would, Nicole or whoever make that decision, but that's also not the limit. If we're, I think, and again, this is new to me, if the idea is to bring these folks in to do it, this would be kind of the lowest level. It's possible that Nicole could say, I'm going to put something in for 5 hours, and people out there will think with this, I'm assuming this presentation is the expectation is that it would be a total of an hour, maybe it's 30 and 30, maybe we know that the students really like being after school, so it's an hour after school, in the morning, that's really the difference.
So just to make sure, those 3 or 4 positions are new positions? They're all outside or inside hires? That's also true, but that's the expectation of full-time positions.
So, we never know, so we always, allow staff, of course, in the one room for advancement, and like Clayton mentioned, that we have 7-hour systems that run for up to 8 hours, that's great. We're gonna do a blend of internal and external.
So, these positions, I know since you're not certified, like, certified or trained, how does that work?
They're going to need deep and thorough training, which is why we're asking for the 2 certified, who are the experts in the field, under my direction, to plan it out and have a sustainable system built.
So the expectation then is for 2 librarians to turn out the other 4?
Correct. Plus, do some training for general ed teachers.
And Clayton, not to put you on the spot, but in discussions, okay, just can you walk us through what the general expectation of instructional assistants are? Like what in order to get that job that we need, and then extra training that we would put in?
Sure, yeah. So, you have your credit hours, so you can also pass that test, the credit
again, the reason why the community didn't necessarily see a full-throated defense about the libraries and how to care about books is so much of decisions like this have to be made in negotiations with unions and with labor, and so there's no question. I can imagine saying to a bargaining unit, we're about to create 3 or 4 new positions. It's a lot of positions. Even though Lansing is relatively big, you have about 1,500 employees. 34 extra folks in one bargaining unit is pretty big. So if again, presentations now, we'll talk about it. If we decide to go down this road, it would be a huge conversation with the LEA. We can still create these positions, and I think we all, regardless of what's going to happen in terms of really trying to support the libraries, we need to create just more people to help our kids. But yeah, we would absolutely talk to LEA as well as LCA in terms of these conversations.
Thank you. Thank you guys. Who else? Mr. Superintendent, do you have any additional information to share for your report?
I mean, only to say that I think I really enjoyed this. Everybody's doing it on the goals in my office. I think I've never turned anybody away. This is kind of how we do. We try to really be thoughtful and transparent and pretty public. And, I think anybody who's ever emailed me gets a response pretty quickly, even if you don't like it. But this is the kind of fun stuff that I hope you see what we're really trying to do collectively. We've got great leaders, principals, directors, COOs, the superintendent, deputy superintendents. It's very nice about speaking about their own children. I think there's something really powerful about our own district folks sending their kids even to this building, and that's really quite wonderful. So I want to thank them. I want to thank the board. Again, the attendance rates that I mentioned, I'm really proud of because that's something that we've been really working hard on. And we'll see what we can do. But I appreciate the presentation. We'll take it under advisement.
Thank you. That moves us on to the agenda, which brings us to our routine matters. First item this evening is a committee report for facilities and Mr. Lopez.
Facilities committee met a couple of days ago. We reviewed 3 items that are in your packet for discussion and approval. They're the ones for the Willow Elementary School food service equipment. We have some work on brand milk and a lot of units associated with non-food. And we have the third one associated with the fuel track project. So as we get to approval, we will have discussions with the vice chancellor between Mr. Chairman and I, and of course our staff. So that's what we want to talk about this evening.
Thank you. So as I see on the consent agenda this evening, we have the food service equipment bed, change order for the approach, and the change order request for the camera mobile module build. Is that all that we have this evening?
For general discussion, we have the issue with okay. And this is separate item that we will make that.
Since the food service equipment and coach track and camera are on the consent agenda, we don't have any questions. Feel free to ask us all questions or ask us to put on the consent agenda.
Mr. President, you want to answer?
Any questions from Mr. Lopez? Seeing none, I will move on to our personnel committee report. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Williams.
So I'm looking at the food service part of everyone. So we're not, according to this review, that we're reviewing out because it says no for all of us. Or are we going with great.
The current rate system is just that it's not a tri-county benefit. So But the one that is highlighted, which is Great Lakes West, that is the vendor that we're recommending.
I'm sorry, I didn't know all of that. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Oh, so we're, okay. Seating regulations this evening. All right, Mr. Lopez, floor is still yours. You must give us the first document, please.
Yes, the personnel committee met on June 28th. We talked about a couple of different efforts the HR department is doing to fill teaching positions in particular with international teachers and for Teach for America. We also talked about other recruitment efforts for all staff positions. We're getting updated on the busyness of the summer, trying to hire, and it looks like the last vacancies that we've had, so it's going in the right direction. We also talked about tracking grievances and what that looks like for the district, some special projects, some questions about retention and exit interviews that the board has lifted up in the meeting before. I know Dr. Martinez has been working with the department on some projects in that regard. And then looking at the report that we typically get during the school year on resignation, retirements, new hires, and what should be in that report and how we have to structure. So we might have some changes and we'll talk more about that next meeting on how and when we want that to look like for future meetings.
Shifting to Dr. Lewis.
Why we don't have a report from the human research teachers, people needing retirements, and all that is not here today.
Yep, so to incorporate everything that we're doing, it'll be in our board meeting next month, the August 1st board meeting.
I will see it. Thank you.
Are we also talking about creating our own process for new hires, or is there one already in place? So school and
The committee's only discussion was about some of these new programs that we're looking at, but in general,
I just want to make sure I heard the question. Are we working on onboarding for our new staff?
as they come in, is there an onboarding procedure that continues to grow and monitor where we're not seeing a turnover as we're going to do 6 months like we can see in the past? Are we revising that?
Sure. Well, I'd say two things. One, I'm certainly trying to make it go. I mean, Clayton isn't really doing it, so he's still on. I think I want to be really careful about the correlation and causation is you are 100% right that we have to do everything we can to retain terrific staff. We have to be really careful that if somebody is leaving after a month, 6 months, a year, we have to really understand why. Is that we are doing a lot of new kind of onboarding and support, but just because somebody worked for us for 6 months and left, it doesn't necessarily mean that they were a great fit and we're sad to lose them. It also doesn't mean that they wanted to be with us. But I think that you were right to highlight that. I will say what was really interesting to us when we looked at the data before is that there was people leaving the first 2 years and there were people retiring at 25. The fact that people were staying between year 2 and 25 is actually a really good thing when it comes to hiring, because it means once they kind of came over the hump, they like it, they're here. But I just want to be really careful to think that anybody who leaves in the first year is something that we have to be overly concerned about. My hope, and this is something the board's asked for, and I'm really happy with, and Day is really working on as well, is we got to give you the rationale as to why people are leaving. Because, like, for instance, we saw that there was, at one school, there were a lot of people leaving, and they all had the same reason. And if we don't fix that, that's a problem. So I really appreciate you saying that. I'm seeing what onboarding stuff, we're doing.
Sure, so we continue to develop the onboarding process. I will absolutely say that it's something that was lacking in prior years, so what we're looking at doing is having a more robust onboarding process where when new hires come in, they're given resources, they are given time to spend in the buildings, and they're introduced to staff prior to starting. Something that we used to do as a district is you were hired, you were onboarded, started the next day or two. Kind of give them time to acclimate themselves, who their leader
Mr. Lopez, supported by Dr. Rodriguez. Dr. Rodriguez, all right. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Great, motion passes 6-0. That brings us to our new business this evening for consideration. We have our GLRC resolution, which is the Greater Lansing Regional Committee in Great Lakes Recovery and Energy. I'm hoping that Mr. Kern has a lot to say about this because this is Greek to me. But we have a resolution recommendation from us. I'm not sure there's a number of the administration that would to tell us more about this.
I thought you were just going to ask Mr. Kern to talk about it. So this is something that we have to do every year. So this is standard business for the district. So we are this is part of storm water management. This is basically, this keeps coming up. For the district to continue to comply with not dumping inappropriate substances into the water and making sure that we are complying with all stormwater and drinking management. So this is us signing on saying yes, we will continue to do that and be good stewards of the community.
Now that you said that, it does remind me that Mr. Kern helped translate this from last time we talked about this. Dr. Rodriguez?
Yes, we say calculations, the payment, how much is the payment?
Sorry, I'm looking at my director of operations right now, but she's having a hard time remembering too. It is not a vast amount, but we can absolutely get that for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And this is, it does say extends the agreement to April 4th, 2028. Does that mean the board does not need to review this again until 2028, or is it still required to be reviewed?
I'm going to double check on that one too. I think we might still need to do it annually, but we're entering into the agreement for that.
Okay. That doesn't change the fact that we need to do it for this year.
We have to, right, this is something we have to do. I don't know.
No problem.
We just might be doing it every year.
Perfect. All right. There's actually, may I have a motion? Dr. Rodriguez?
I move that the board of education approve the Lansing Regional Community to restore water management memorandum of agreement as presented.
So moved by Dr. Rodriguez, supported by Mr. Kern. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0. That brings us to our Greeley contract. I am going to turn it over to Mrs. Tokar to talk to us more about the contracted services. Dr.
Thank you. So this, I think we're familiar with our role. Thank you, gladly. The Greeley Education Services is the company that we've been partnering with over the past year to help us through several different projects. I want to highlight some of those things. One, Lansing Education helped us receive $12 million in grants and anticipated savings that will benefit the district for years to come. We have also garnered national recognition, with the Lansing School District being one of only 13 school districts in the United States as a 2024 recipient of the U.S. Department of Energy's Efficient and Healthy Schools program. Additionally, this past year, we received 20 all-electric school buses through the efforts of Green Education and through the EPA's Clean School Bus Grant Program. We've also launched a student internship program, which we're very happy of, and several of you have met Cadence, who helped go out to Denver and help us receive our award. We have also done, they assisted us in getting our master facilities plan going, and we've done several other things with them. So this contract is for those green and sustainability initiatives, including working with EPA and school bus program. And then they also assist us through a different contract that's separate from this. So I want to make sure there's a distinction between the two. This is the one to help us with the items that I just stated. The other solar, so that is a separate contract that's different from this. So this contract that you see in front of you tonight extends this opportunity through the next school year. Currently, they are working on grants that that the district may receive anywhere from $12 to $14 million worth of grants this next school year. So that is the current information that I have for you tonight regarding the contract and the different grants that they are working on.
Thank you very much. I just feel like I need to reiterate this because I'm channeling my inner Dr. Rodriguez said this has nothing to do with placing solar panels or windmills.
Correct. It has nothing to do with that. This is very separate.
Double checking. I just want to make sure that that's clear. And this is contracted service hours. I'm going to turn over to you guys in just a second. I did have a question, just so I'm clear about how this came to be. So as I'm reviewing the project overview, this is the Lansing School District is seeking professional advisory services for a sustainability action plan. And this is a proposal for contracted services. Did we have any private house supply for contracted services for this purpose with us?
So it's not, there's not a ton of applicable, contracted services not supposed to have people apply for it, if that makes sense.
I got it. That helps clear up my concern. Okay, thank you. Dr. Rodriguez is here.
This family is an organization, is a person working how the operation, and the total is 135,000. That is all.
Correct. That is all. So the total amount of people that they have in the organization now, I believe, is up to 8. So this includes the entire team working on this. The team also is comprised of the 2 people that created the team are the former person that I would say is in my role, but for the New York City public school system, so 1,700 schools that oversaw operations, and also the gentleman also that has been here to present for you before that also did operations for the Washington DC public school system, and both of them have worked to have multiple sustainability initiatives in those 2 very large school districts. So they have them, and they have other members of their team as well as working with student interns in the Lansing School District. So they bring them on as well.
That is why I'm not informed as much as I'm supposed to know that. That maybe during the year, if that report telling us all this was thanks to that contract.
Okay.
That way we know that we are spending the money, we are getting something from the money.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to wait 1 year to just approve the date.
Sure.
We don't know.
So, the total cost of this contract is $105,000. And I don't know if last year's contract was very long. They helped us obtain, what was that number again?
$12 million.
Phenomenal. I know I said it before, past meetings, but thank you, Diane, and thank you, and all of that. That's huge for this to be able to spend. I want to say it's a little bit of money, but in the grand scheme of that 12 million grants, it's huge.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Williams?
Mr. Carr, I just, for clarification, because it said in the contract, it says that they support our EV bus charging and all of that, but in the attachment, it says that implementation support for Michigan EV bus grant is a work out.
So, we were awarded with the grants for buses. We also have got another buses, but what comes along with that is charging. So we were awarded the actual buses themselves, but now we need to do all the work around creating the charging stations, what that looks like. Go into it a lot, but actually getting those up and implemented, contracting out that work, working with the transportation as our partner to see what that looks like, and meeting with them frequently as a team to make sure that we get all of that up and running, and as well as the water. You're welcome.
Thank you. I think this out of our second for questions without a motion. Are there a motion? Dr. Rodriguez?
Thank you. I move that the board education approve the education contract for the 2024-25 school year as presented.
wasteful or waste to the city and municipalities. It's an area that not many people have looked at, and we have a large amount of biological waste that could be disposed of in a better way from our cafeterias and other programs. So I hope that through this consulting process we'll find some solutions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Crane. No, Mr. Malinsky, sorry. Any additional questions or comments or remarks? All right, seeing none, may all those in favor please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Great, motion passes 6-0. Next, we have consideration of our renewal of our membership for MHSAA, which is the Michigan High School Athletic Association. I would like to say that I'm happy to not only see that someone figured out how to type on this document this year, but it also includes our list of middle school sports that we are offering. So I'm going to do this in the proper parliamentary order and ask for a motion.
Madam President, I move with the exception of the correction on the date that we accept this resolution.
Which date are you looking at?
It says that 18, but it says 18, not 8.
Where are you looking?
In the resolution itself.
Oh, on the resolution, not the application. Gotcha.
Right, for the resolution.
Perfect. Okay, so since you need that before, make sure that this is corrected. There's a motion on the floor, and I have a support.
Support.
It's moved by Ms. Williams, seconded by Dr. Rios, for the Board of Education approving the MHSAA renewal form for the 2024-2025 school year as corrected. Any questions or comments? Absolutely.
I just want to really point out, not only is this membership of the MHSSA, including a lot of our junior high school work and our K-8 work, is our real hope is that with this approval, we're going to be pushing towards a lot of health and wellness all the way down to our younger kids. Typically, over the last couple of years, sadly, the school district is really focusing on high school sports and high school wellness, but not as much as really robust sports programs and health and wellness programs. For younger kids, this is going to be the kind of beginning of a really new and innovative and rigorous athletics program. So I'm really happy to be able to comment on that.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments? All right, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0. That brings us now to our discussion item section. On the agenda, we don't have any discussion items. That brings us to report from Secretary of Announcements.
Thank you, Madam President. July 27, 5 p.m., Eastern High School class 1974, 50th reunion, 925 South Kites Road. Registration required. All the Quakers should be there. August 19, Teachers' First Day. We finished school yesterday. August 21st, first day of the school. Next board meetings, July 20th is then, July 20th, the Board of Education will be an early at 9 a.m. And the conference center in 225 College Avenue, Harlem, Michigan. August 1st, regular board meeting, and August 15th, regular board meeting. That Secretary
Thank you very much. Any questions for Dr. Rios? Okay, seeing that we are up to public comment on non-agenda items, I'm going to ask for a courtesy from our board members if we could take a 5-minute recess. We have 17 members registered for public comment, which is great. We welcome the feedback, and I want to make sure we can give you all of our attention. But we have been sitting here for 2 hours, so we could just take 5 minutes to stretch our legs so that the public speakers have our full attention during the public comment. I appreciate that. Is there any objection from board members? Take a 5-minute recess. Okay. All right. We will
much planning to do that anyway.
Well, if not, I'll just.
Dude, well, I have always have to. Where do you get this dress from?
It'll still be large.
See, I've been holding that bottle for 2 hours.
invite Marcella to the makeshift podium this evening to address the board.
Thank you. Hello. I'm Mari Martinez, and I'm a sub in the district. I'd obviously like to speak regarding the restructuring of the library staff. From what I've heard presented here, there were no lies told by Sarah Atwood in the Lansing State Journal, despite Ben's comment about misinformation. The plan described involves cutting the number of librarians, and you kept saying 5 librarians will be staffed. But that's only 2 librarians for all of those elementary and middle schools. This is a complete undervaluing of librarians. A librarian has a master's degree in library sciences. I heard the word training programs for the instructional assistants by the 2 librarians being paid, creating a program for them. But will that be sufficient? It doesn't sound sufficient. It sounds like when the kids get a long-term sub that teaches them nothing all semester. Elementary and middle school libraries are just as important as high school libraries, if not more important, because those years are preparing them for high school. More people to work with students is not as effective as a highly trained professional librarian. My question is, are the 2 other librarians being cut so that you don't have to pay them a salary and benefits, and you can pay the instructional assistants for less without benefits? A decision like this is going to have long-term consequences and will create a gap in our educational system that will be felt for years to come. Librarians are at the forefront of the battle against censorship and book bans, which have already started to be enforced in our country. Libraries preserve history and truth, and librarians are not just people who help kids check out books. Librarians are teachers who teach essential research and information, literary skills that are increasingly important in our digital age. These skills help students navigate the overwhelming amount of information that they encounter daily so that they can be informed, discerning citizens, critical thinkers, and I urge you to reconsider this plan to cut librarians and to recognize the invaluable role of librarians that they serve in the district and our community. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. My name is Taylor Ellis, Columbia Library Chief, as we talk can and literacy. These are things that the librarians and the educators teach our youth. I understood everything that was said here today, and I really respect what that young lady just said, and the things that people over-understand, under-understand, and do not state appropriately and misinform everybody else with their rhetorics. They do teach, and it is true, that the librarians have an important area in the school district, as do also the educators. Educators have the opportunity to inspire and engage youth and tell them how to go to the library to get the things that they need to get and to look into it. I had the opportunity to earn or get new books from a school or a place that were the libraries from all the schools in the Lansing School District donated to an organization that was not part of the school district. The thing that I noted in all of those books that I received was 100% of them was only taken out of the library once or twice in 10 years. That means that either the educator did not have the opportunity to inspire the youth to go to the library to get the material, or the educators were restricted in their curriculum on how or when or where they send the children to the library. If you have an educator that is creative, they can inspire the students to do that. And they inspire the students to read. I introduced the Michigan State University Cooperative Extension in the 80s, a way to do reading readiness for kids beginning in early development all the way up to high school. Some of those ideas are still used in 82 counties. I also introduced in the Lansing School District methods in operation to improve how you do essays, research, books, and culture, and academics in order to know how to be into the technology world so they can be in journalism, reading, and writing. Reading is really fundamental, and they can't always get it in the classroom except with a creative educator. The creative educator then works with a library, and they all teach the children how to research the materials and the books. I don't know when a book loses its value, and when they just give it away because they no longer want to keep it in the library. I'm grateful that they did that because I acquired over 100 books like that. But if the books are acquired by me and never read by the student, what good is it to have all those pictures of the books in the library, all the books showing up on the desk, and nobody's teaching the children how to research or read the books? Creative educators, smart, educated librarians work together. Our public system is dependent on the two.
Architects are designers and builders, not educators. The Lansing School Board were elected and charged with providing what our students need to be successful and be vigilant caretakers for tax dollars, not educators. The board hires a superintendent who is an educator and can advise them as to what the best systems, protocols, procedures, everything that helps our kids succeed. So when cubby libraries, common space bookshelves, no of 2 librarians is suggested, it's the superintendent's responsibility to passionately veto that immediately. Because he is the one who knows, or at least should know, that part-time librarians drastically increase students' reading and writing capabilities, not to mention the benefit of full-time librarians, especially for K-8, and the emotional growth paths they offer are immeasurable. So does the superintendent not understand the value of librarians, or going by Vince's State Journal's quote today that this was an internal personnel issue? Perhaps he feels they're too expensive. When I contacted the board last month, I included 3 pieces of literature with 57 links to students, briefs, evidence of the obvious benefit of librarian, and not just pretty rooms. From that, I got that data from 1 week from CAD, and I'm continuing every day to get more data. To me, this appears to be a heinous dereliction of duty, and there should be consequences to that. How much evidence is required to fix this before it's broken irreparably? All our librarians need to be restored to full time, and that includes the 6th through 8th grade that received no library services last year, along with several schools without librarians. The architect should reconfigure for libraries, and while that's costly, it needs to happen. The state of Michigan is poised to enact a law requiring schools and libraries to have libraries and librarians, where a law should not be required to do what's right for our kids. Full-time librarians should be the future in our pretty rooms. The schools have been told there's no libraries next year, and librarians are all displaced to reassign. So, to say not closing libraries, they're just rooms with books. It seems this administration will reap his path of destruction and move on to another job, while you, the board, will remain as those bearing the state of destroying Lansing School's libraries. Everyone I have spoken to, teachers, parents, citizens who have reached out to the board or administration with questions have been ignored, stonewalled, misled, deceived, distracted, and tonight's no different with all this gaslighting. It's real clear this administration and board know this is not what the community wants or will accept, so it's all hands on deck to silence any pushback. The utter disregard, disrespect, and contempt for our staff, families, and kids in this matter I find diabolical. There never was or will be a scenario where anything good was going to happen with our libraries, denigrated, devalued, and unprotected. I'm asking the board to do the right thing for our kids and restore and protect our libraries and librarians now.
take a look around today, this might look familiar. Last fall, the Lansing community and LSD staff invited the school board to a community discussion about equity and what felt like discriminatory practices. We spoke, some people cried, some sent letters, children poured out their hearts. Most of you were in attendance. It could have been the start of a deeply restorative process. Instead, we were only given responses through media outlets where the board president explained all concerns were simply a lie. I'm almost offended by the tone from tonight, but I won't waste our time to explain why. I'd like to instead leave you all with the following to use during your personal reflection time later. How might you receive remarks questioning the validity of data and information presented during countless press conferences the district has participated in over the past year? It appears from tonight, parents from Newton were successful in gaining your consideration for the change to a centralized library. How many Willow families provided feedback on school plans and or the libraries? Were Willow families a part of that discussion? If parents didn't attend, how should they have provided feedback to you? How have Mount Hope parents provided feedback? It was stated that the library space in Willow's Pods was comparable to the model shown on the board. What is the exact square footage of these library spaces on the building plans? How might you work to improve communication between districts and community? It is your job to address these concerns. Are you doing this well? Newsflash, pun intended. The information on social media is coming directly to you from us, a collective us. I'm glad you're willing to speak to us now about our concerns. As I stated before, and what others have also shared, I'm happy to participate in dialogue about what I can only guess was a recommendation presented here tonight by your team. I'm sure the community would love to give their recommendations as well. To read is to be free. Literacy is liberation.
Ms. Fry, and then Ms. Martin, followed by Sheila Contreras.
Hello, thank you for your time tonight. I'm a Lansing resident, and I voted to fund new facilities. Like many parents and many Lansing residents, I took it for granted that building a new school included building a library, the central nexus of learning and education in a building. What I've come to realize is that the board and this administration is viewing that definition of a library very loosely. When we were presented with plans, none of those plans included the word library. It wasn't until my daughter, going into 6th grade, raised her hand at that meeting and said, "Where's the library?" We then learned that the library, quote, space would be better defined as a booklet, a small area in a pod, okay? Unlike the large images that we were shown tonight, the square footage depicted in these plans were nothing like what was presented. They were areas where the library would be dismantled and given to these small pod spaces. All of this information did not come from social media, disinformation, or rumors. This came directly from the plans that were presented to Lansing parents at Newton. Additionally, when students circulated a petition, they gained 120 signatures in a matter of 2 days supporting the library space and retaining the key resource of the librarian to help the students and to help the teachers at Newton, but also at other schools in the district. Like the superintendent and like everyone else, I was shocked to learn this. I was shocked to learn that there was a disinvestment in libraries in our schools. I was also shocked when I attended, with 24 hours notice, I attended a parent meeting at Newton to find that the summary slide, summarizing all the parent concerns, did not include our concerns for the library and retaining not only that central key library space, but also the library facility, the library staff. It included other concerns, but those that were expressed by parents and also by students were not documented in that process, and those concerns were not honored as much as all of the other things that were mentioned that evening. I do want to stress that we understand you appreciate books and you know that books are important, but the access to those books and the place where they're housed and the staff that are trained, have master's degrees, and are there able to help guide our students through the training process to introduce them to libraries and introduce them to books are important too. We encourage you to also add those library spaces to Willow, and retain them at Mount Hope as well. Thank you.
We do not agree for you to raise our taxes to build schools with no libraries, and I will not quibble over the definition of a library. I think we all know what it actually is. You've taken our goodwill and hopes and dreams for the future of the city's children. You've taken our money. And if we are in this spot now, we are here because of the lack of transparency. And the outright, well, as somebody said before, gaslighting, telling people who have observed with their own eyes something that it is not true. To continue on this path with this library plan, even the new one, which is exploitive, it is exploiting the labor of teachers, and it is exploiting the labor of those potential 34 specialists. They cannot be trained to do the job of a librarian. It's exploitive. You're adding more labor to people who are already just working in under-resourced situations. So this is not a one-school issue. It's not each school and then the families decide. That is not how it should be. The virtual lack of any kind of research base for these decisions is astounding. And the undervaluing of librarians and their specialized skill and training is, I can't even think of the word. It's just, it's offensive. We were led into the process. We trusted and we agreed voluntarily to this tax increase, thinking our children in this city would have buildings that would enable them to reach their full potential. Now we're hearing things about motherships, and which is gender outdated language, about motherships and prefab, manufactured housing buildings. They aren't even brick and mortar. I mean, do people know this? Like, do we know this? So if we are not quite with your program, it is because you have not shared information with us in the way that we needed it to be shared. I think, there's just so much to say. There's just so much. To make it sound like teachers have the opportunity to develop relationships with students, well, that's just ridiculous. That's just ridiculous, as if teachers don't already do that. So, back to the point about the millage. What feels like has happened is a bait and switch, and you're doing it here too. You're doing it all over again, throwing out all kinds of information that people have to absorb very quickly. You took our hopes and dreams for this public school district, and you turned us into the agents of its demise. That is horrifying. I'm so disappointed.
District not to respond to public comment. I want to make it clear that the comment I'm about to say right now is not responsive to public comment that has been said thus far. However, I think that it is critically important that the public understand that all of our buildings have libraries. They have a physical space as a library, our current buildings and our new buildings. If there is a question about the utilization and the access, that's different. But to purport that there is not a traditional library in our schools is not accurate. And so I just need to make that abundantly clear. I'm happy to hear about all the other information and concerns, but it needs to be a headline statement that there is not going to be the absence of libraries in any of our buildings, period.
So I just want to make sure that that's clear.
There's not one in the map right now.
I'm sorry, we're not engaging this is a meeting, but we literally showed during our presentation the schematic of Luton and included a lot of, I'm sorry, this is not the time for this, but what I will say is that if there was time during a prior iteration of a map that didn't include one, the only thing that is a matter of fact is what is approved by this board. And so there has not been a schematic approved for Luton, period. There has been no schematic approved for Luton. So to say that Luton doesn't include a library is inaccurate because nothing about Luton exists today. Period. So to say that it doesn't have a library is not accurate. There are 2 buildings under development right now, that is Mount Hope and Willow, and both of those buildings include a library. So I just want to make that abundantly clear. We hear you, but to say that the building foundations, the 4 squares of those buildings do not include plans to include a library, it's just not factually accurate. For the buildings under operations, Luton has not been approved by this board. Okay? I would like to invite Jamie Rollins to the table, to the podium, and the next up is Ash Dallas.
Okay, my name is Jamie Rollins. I'm a third grade teacher at Guyer Park. And I have seen what our librarian, now our librarian currently is not a certified librarian, she's a certified teacher. She's working on getting her certification in library. Now, when I hear these different things, and the first thing I thought of was, when I have a conference with parents, and teachers start talking, we start talking on lingo. And some of the words we heard were books, literacy, and libraries. Those are all different things, they all go together, but they're all different things. We're talking about a library with a librarian who is going to work with teachers. We work together on our curriculum, they reinforce our curriculum, they make special bonds with the kids. I appreciate whenever we have aides, parapros, whatever you want to call them, we need them. However, it is not their job, even with all the training you might give them, to be a librarian. We need certified people to be a librarian. We know this. So I want us all to understand this. It's very important that schools are staffed with certified teachers.